Guys, it is wonderful to have you all on here in this webinar. I'm totally excited about hosting it. Today, there's a bit of content that we're going to go through. So, first of all, I'll be sharing some of the results that I got regarding the 70 interviews that I conducted over the past few months with sales development reps, business development reps, appointment setters, and account executives. Okay. And we'll start the webinar with a bit of what is the mindset to have as a top performer according to me. Okay. Then I'll have tips regarding written communication and how you get to C-level executives. Okay. Whether you're in a very large company that's really well known, or even a non company whereby you may feel like, hey, I'm helpless because I'm not actually, the company I'm working for is not that well known. I don't know how to get their attention. Well, I'd like to believe that this session is going to be useful. Okay. Also, we'll be looking at cold calling, a bit of objection handling, and I'll show you a call that is successful in my eyes. Okay. I want to make this, by the way, webinar as light as possible because I know it's around 5 p.m. in the UK, so you guys are probably wanting to end the day. Some of the other guys who are not currently in the same time zone, I'm probably interrupting your day. So I'll try and make it as concise and to the point as possible. Okay. Also, last but not least, I want this session to be as interactive as possible, right? So if you've got questions or objections, because we're going to look at objections in terms of cold calling later on, well, it is for you the opportunity to assess me on that. Okay, super. Without further ado, let's get started. I'll put my video off so that we can just focus on the content. All right, let's do it, guys. So, as some of you may already know, my name is Felix. I've been in B2B sales for around 10 years, been a top performer in very hard conditions when working for a few startups. I've now reached a point in my career whereby I work in senior leadership, and it's a different ball game. It's something that I enjoy. When I'm thinking about the whole career, I think that my first few years were the most uncomfortable ones because looking for new business is tough, guys. You know it, especially when I believe sometimes there's not enough guidance. So I feel that my calling is to help people by making them ramp up through a smoother learning experience, helping them finding their inner peace, but also be skillful, be competent at what they're doing. Okay. Um, because there's only so much that you can deal with in terms of information, right? There's a deluge of digital information on social platforms. There's a lot of substantial training also in companies. By the end of the day, it's all about you. It's about how you execute. It's about you bringing out your personality and make your company win as much as yourself. So there has to be a path to top performance. What is it? Well, in my eyes, there are a few things that need to be considered because we all in companies and we start at the very same point A, right? We all seeds. Some grow, some don't. Some grow faster than others. Why? Why is that? I think that a lot has to do, first off, with the type of mindset that the top performer has. And to some extent, it's the ability to reframe one's win. Okay. When you are given a target that's thrown at your face, if you don't reach it, if you don't get that 50K, that 100K that you need to close, well, you may start by looking at what you've done well. You may start by looking at how many of the opportunities you actually conducted and towards closing, right? On the negotiation stage, right? How many went to proof of concept? If you're a BDR, how many calls have you made, right? During the day. You didn't get the meeting. Okay. How many connects? That should be proud of. If you didn't get any connects, well, how many dials you've made? You should be proud of. How many, conversations you've had with gatekeepers? That's what you should be proud of. Even if you got rejected, rebuked. Well, what information did you get from companies? See, the mindset is very important because you can easily fall into a mini depression, and that's not something that I wish for anyone, right? So when you look at yourself and you're not a fully grown plant yet, well, it's a process, right? Because sales is hard. It's about activity, it's about embracing failure. My question to you is, how do you redefine your objectives? The second thing I feel that's quite important is discipline. Because again, sales is about activity, it's about maths. Once you pick up that sales target, what do you need to do to commit? Right? What are some of the things on a daily basis that you need to do, regardless of whether you're super excited or moody, right? And what lengths do you need to go in terms of affecting your own success? Okay, let's say for instance you're supposed to have like 10 conversations a day, 60 to 70 dials, 10 conversations a day, right? You're not having those conversations on Wednesday. What are you going to do to catch up? Are you going to stay a bit more longer in the office to catch up? Are you going to be more strategic and make those additional calls maybe during an hour where you're not used to call, right? You have to think about creativity, okay? Another tip that I feel is very important is authenticity. Are you being you? Are you trying to sound like other people? Are you copying the top 0.01% whilst using your personality? If yes, I think that's a good idea. If you're trying to sound like the Wolf of Wall Street or being mimicking other individuals, uh, fake it till you make it, but then there's limits, okay, in my eyes. It's good to admire people, it's good to copy, but be yourself, okay? Because otherwise, you may end up in a situation where things will get counterproductive in my eyes. Okay. Another tip I feel that is useful is the extent to which you collaborate. Okay. Are you seeking help? Some people have been there, done that, right? And maybe you're setting records in your company. If you're not yet, then it is possible to do it one day at a time because you're growing, right? You're a growing plant. It does, and you may grow more than some of the account executives in terms of your SDR skills levels. Yeah, you may grow more because you're applying a methodology that works, a system that works for you, right? Are you making the most of your marketing leads that you have access to? Are you making the most of the introductions that made to your companies? Do you know if your AEs have info that you believe you should possess? What is the CRM looking like? Are you working on those leads that at the conference that you went to or that your associate went to? Are you making use of your referrals? So, guys, these are just a few traits amongst others that I've listed in a free report to help you accelerate your learning. You can always send me a message at the end of the webinars to gain access to that report. But for now, dun, 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 question time, guys. Further to my interviews, what do you believe is the one pain that has been the least mentioned? Is it how to become an account executive? Is it about, you would have guessed, right? Coding such building rapport. Is it about, what would you say? Well, that's a tough one, right? It's not the best clip art. Bad, inaccurate data. Guys, I give you a few moments. What is the one pain that has been the least mentioned? Pop your answers in the chat. What is the one pain that has been the least mentioned? Exactly. Sorry for that embarrassing noise. It is how to become an account executive. So the sample included BDRs, as I mentioned, from 2 months to 1.5 years in a minority of account executives. So you guys were all on different journeys. And I hope that you will be staying in sales, provided that it's your calling, provided that you feel that it's challenging enough, and I'm sure it is, right? But I believe that is a career that gets the best out of you from a transferable skills standpoint, right? Becoming an A is like is within everyone's reach, if that's your goal. It just needs to be your goal. Trust me, right? And I guess that it's not been mentioned just because you guys are just bogged down with a lot of things that happen, um, which are ultimately about targets, goals, etc., etc. Okay. Hey, so I propose that we move on and we look at what are some of the things that I believe can help you also to reach top performance in terms of tools. Now, I may be polarizing a few opinions, but I don't really care because I'm looking at what has worked for me, okay, and what the companies I've worked for valued in me and what I provided. So there's loads of tools, right? And I think to help you succeed in your role and to help you edge ahead and to help you have a company that trusts you as a quote, a career that hits predictable revenue, there's a lot of things that you need to think about. So, hey, obviously, from getting a right set of accounts, understanding your strategic levels of activities, what are the account spend, what industry to target, what refers to I, etc. And in terms of like positioning yourself, what are your soft skills, what are your hard skills? I mean, there's a lot, guys. But today, I just want to make it really clear on what the major focus will be. I will only be looking at email. Emails are the least intrusive and most powerful form of messages when used well as phone calls, which are, in my eyes, also the most efficient ways to qualify and get answers that you need to hear in order to proceed or not with the customer or prospects. Okay? In order to make the most of those two tools, it's really important to understand your persona, right? Because you can't be going out there, be winging it. Winging it works, but to some extent only, right? Um, so there needs to be a focus on who you're talking to so that you know what words to use in order to get to the pain and solve it, right? Understanding your best time. See, I see a lot of BDRs making most of their phone calls, for instance, at 11 a.m. There's nothing wrong with you calling at 11 a.m. But then, if most of your 50 calls, 60 calls, 70 calls are actually from 10 to 11 or 11 to 12, then my question is, hey, let's get creative. Let's think about other times, maybe, right? In terms of you understanding English literature, being like sounding like Shakespeare. Well, I hate to break it to you, but you don't need to be that kind of person, right? Knowing basic structures. And I mean, it's easy maybe for me to say because I've been to university, and maybe a lot of people on the calls have actually been to university too. So we've been able to draft reports. But then if you've not been to university, then it is actually possible to still be a very good and effective BDRs. Will copywriting courses help? Surely they will, but they are not necessary, and I will show you why in a short while. So also reality check, right? When you've got an email, or when you're sending a message, or you're having that conversations with prospects, right? Will they be very comfortable in, first of all, reading your email? For instance, I've had vice presidents sending first emails that look like about us pages. I'm like, what the? Can't work. Can't work. You need to be very concise and straight to the point. And follow-ups. So follow-ups can be done via emails, obviously, but LinkedIn, social media are also a very good tool, as well as video prospection, because it brings out your personality a bit more. People get to see what you're like, and it does improve your conversion rates. So that's about it, I think, in terms of the ingredients. But hey, again, my idiotic jingle, guys, we're getting to another SDR pain. What is the pain that has been mentioned by the UK twice versus the US 14 times, guys? Use your imagination. So we've got low response rates, got no shows, and we've got time management. Guys, I will give you a few seconds, please. Pop in the chat what you believe was the most mentioned, not the most mentioned, but what has been mentioned by the UK twice versus the US 14 times. Go ahead, guys, go ahead. All right, guys. So some of you may have guessed it right. It's a tough one, again, but it was time management. Yeah, time management. So my question is it because Brits are better organized? Is it because US BDRs pay more attention to the secret of their success? There's again another big opportunity for study or further group conversation that I could be facilitating in the near future. Low response rates has been heard across the ponds, and no shows quite a lot too. But yeah, it's a funny one, right? So we've reached a time when it's a good idea in my eyes to get you some tips regarding emails. And this part hopefully will be exciting you. Well, to me, it does. So I hope that the excitement is going to be infectious. Let's get started. Woo, woo, woo. All right. And I'd like to start with an email that I received fairly recently from a BDR that's called Richard. Okay. I think in my eyes, first of all, what I'd like to say is that the greeting is really good. Yeah, Felix, I just gave you a call. Okay, right, familiarity. Yeah, making the connection. And then he goes on and asks me whether I could point him in the right direction. And there's a lot of links. And then he mentions that, hey, if you're the right person, let's schedule a call. So the introduction is not too bad, but then after that, you lost me because first of all, you're clueless about me. You don't even know who I am. You don't even know if the information is actually right for me. So, guys, please don't be like Richard. Don't be like Richard. Click on the link below to view my calendar and schedule a time that fits your schedule. Well, you've not really qualified me, so I could be there and wanting to talk about shampoos, right? I don't know. Sorry about that, guys. So yeah, please don't bring emails of this type to the attention of your chosen prospects. Okay. We've got another one, and I've actually chosen the amber light, right? Because I like again the breathing. Yeah, hi Felix, that's cool. The message is very short, very good. We're talking about research. That is solid information. Okay, because it's information that doesn't introduce any skepticism. It's information that is solid. So, and we've got also a few stats. Okay, so that's quite good. And he asks questions because he wants to get into a conversation, right? And I think as a first message, maybe we could do better, but that's my opinion, right? I think we're coming off a bit intrusive because you offer me research, okay? You're asking me a question, but I don't really know what you're offering. So I'm kind of confused. And for me, okay, maybe some of those emails have worked for you guys, but I would not actually recommend. So it can work, but I'm just not a fan of it. So that's my feedback, guys, in my eyes. Now, we're gonna move towards my structure that has been able to reap benefits when I was working, as I mentioned, in a very little startup. Okay, but first of all, I would like to show you what benefits that reaped before we get to the structure. Okay, so I've had like very good success. And it's funny because these are some of the emails that are recorded and saved, but I could have saved a lot more because there's a lot more companies. But for instance, let's start with the top left hand corner, NG, $60 billion company in terms of revenue. And basically, the head of IT asks a lady called Sandra to book a meeting with me. Okay. In addition to this, you've got stakeholders that were really relevant at the time. Same with Patek Philippe, right? Top right hand corner. Bonjour, Monsieur Jamera. Very busy right now. I can propose a meeting at the end of August, early September. Okay, so we're making inroads, we're making some progress. And then I thought to myself, okay, but then hey, that was back in the day. So maybe now things have changed. So I use the very kind of methodology, right? The very kind of, let's say, rationale in order to get to a CIO, a global CIO, okay, that was 6 layers above me. If you look at the bottom left hand corner, and the person likes it. And we did interact, which is something that I was really proud of. Okay. Bottom right hand corner, we've got a huge company called El Cortes Ingles. Okay, a head of IT. Tried the very same thing in actually Spanish. My Spanish is okay-ish, so I did use the help of Google, but I stuck to the very same principles, and it worked for me, guys. And I want it to work for you too. Okay, so I will show you my structure. Okay, here we go, guys. But before we know, before we get to, so I'm getting a bit too excited, but I'm just liking that vibe. But anyway, before we get to see what's coming up with my structure, you know what time it is. Question time first. Guys, what was the second most mentioned fears during my interviews? Pop in the chat. Pop in the chat your best answer. What was the second most mentioned fear? Let me tell you what was the first one. And I think you know it. Fear of rejection. But what was the second? Okay, some of you, most of you, I'm sure, got it. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, a lot of you. Fear of losing job, and it's funny because the study predates the recession we are experiencing right now. Just as an FYI, but it seems that it's just an everlasting topic. And as I mentioned, in the mentorship group that I've got, hey, if circumstances are fiercely against you, then that's a problem. But you can only control what you can control, right? So if companies decide to downsize, well, it's not really your fault. Preserve your preserve your dignity, preserve your tenets, okay, and make sure that you go for what you need to go for, right? And I had actually a few suggestions that I made in the group. Okay, so I think we're all ready to take a look at some of my suggestions in terms of how to go about writing an email that is powerful in my eyes. Okay, again, that's my opinion, but I've had results with it. Okay. Um, Now, what I say, guys, too, is that what's important is that although you may have also a well-structured email, in order to increase your chances of getting answers, you want to have a sales cadence. You want to have a drip campaign. You want to have that first email that you send, that second email that you send, typically, that third, that fourth, right? But that said, I think it's important to be able to have something that is coherent and straight to the point. So in that email, you want to make sure that you explain clearly what you have on offer and work on the phraseology. Kind of a posh word just to say, how do you structure? Sorry, not how do you structure. How do you just simply use the words in order to articulate your thoughts. So when, for instance, it comes to the value proposition, guys, what I hear when it comes to putting together your piece of work is that, hey, I've got this app. Instead of using all the different tools, Mr. Customers, and all those different human resources, we have a single app that does this and that does that. Guys, people don't buy because you tell them that you've got all the features and functionalities in the world. And I'm sure that you know it by now, but then it's hard to to actually put it in action. What is the most important for me, guys, and for people, is what is it that you can identify that has to do with the emotional, the financial, and the mental impact that will make a difference. Okay. First of all, understand this persona, and from an emotional and financial and mental impact, how is it that you can genuinely help? If you can put that in a nice sentence, in a two sentences, no more than three sentences, then you're doing a great job. What is your call to action? What are the next steps? You want to make them clear. Why obviously you want to have that conversation. Should this email not get a reply, then I would suggest that when it comes to the second email, just say, hey, Mr. Customer, hey, Mr. Customer, further to the email I've just sent you, I just wanted to understand if you had had a chance to read it. I'm really excited about us next step, whatever next steps you had identified. Okay. I hope this makes sense. But maybe if you feel that, hey, well, Felix, we wish you had shown us like some of your original emails that you sent out. Okay, well, let me give you a bit more in terms of what is it that I mean by, hey, feel emotional, financial, mental impact. What kind of gibberish are you talking about? Okay. So here are two different ways to explain a value proposition. So I just want you to take a bit of time and read them both and tell me what you believe in your eyes sounds the best. Is it the purple one or is it the green one? Is it the purple one or the green one? Pop in the chat what you feel sounds best to you, right? Okay, guys. Well, I get that maybe it depends on who you're talking to some extent. Yes. Okay. I just want to know which one sounds like just smoother. Because once you get that kind of messaging nailed, then it's gonna be easier for you to fine tune it with the persona, right? But hey, you've got, for instance, on the right something that is much more number driven. It's okay. We're talking about cost reduction. We're talking about how you consolidate tools. Okay. We're talking about how great the company is. So maybe some of the limitation that you see is that, hey, well, it's more about the company than the customer. It's more about the company than the customer or the prospect, right? To be the one on the left sounds like a bit more, I don't want to say seductive, but it's just like flows a bit better, right? We're talking about harmonizing communication, right? That sounds like wow. Like I feel when I read this, I'm just wow, that sounds nice. Okay, that sounds close to melodic. Okay, and then you tell me that, hey, you can help me focus my attention and my time on activities that matter, which is basically what everybody wants, right? And you want to be more specific if you're talking, for instance, um with marketing managers. Okay, well, if you're talking to marketing managers, then you can probably put here their what is called the hypothetical pain, which is, marketing managers want to get leads and probably have more time focusing on the events that they need to dedicate attention to, as opposed to be there worrying about uh, the multiple tools that help them understand whether SDRs are working well and they've got the one-to-ones and the reporting that they need to do to their bosses and etc. without incurring the risk of, or not necessarily the risk, but the hindrance of switching from tools to tools, switching from Microsoft Teams to I don't know, Ring Central, Zoom, etc., etc. You see, and then you've got a nice little case study that's snipped, just like boom, is inserted quite innocently, but I think very cleverly. So to me, and again, I get that, hey, it depends on the personas, but on the left, if your value proposition sounds like that, whereby you're hitting the emotional beat, the financial beat, okay, and the mental beat somewhat, because hey, activities that matter, right? For my mental health, I guess it's good because I'm not like just trying to worry about all sort of things. I just can worry about my job. Then to me, you're getting close to increasing your chances of having replies. You see what I mean? Guys, super. So we're done with emailing. Let's get to the cold calling part. I propose we watch a video for that.
Bonjour. Bonjour, la société. Écoutez, je vous appelle car je me suis intéressé à la société Tinder et j'ai constaté beaucoup de similarités avec notre client qui, comme vous, a plusieurs agences à travers la France. Nous leur avons apporté beaucoup de valeur en simplifiant et en harmonisant les architectures de communication. Oui. Donc, l'apport d'une solution de communication unifiée 100% collaborative leur a permis notamment de regrouper sur une seule et même plateforme la téléphonie, le chat et le conferencing. Et au-delà des économies réalisées, nous leur avons permis de simplifier le SI et de le décomplexifier. Donc, j'aimerais échanger avec vous aujourd'hui pour comprendre la situation actuelle des communications au sein de Teams, si possible. Ouais. Là, maintenant, ça va être compliqué, mais vous pouvez me rappeler un peu plus tard si vous le souhaitez. À quelle heure je pourrais vous rappeler? Après 15h30.
Okay, guys, thank you very much for watching this video. And let me tell you a bit about my comment. So the way he began the call to me is good because he showed that he knows what he's talking about. First off, right? He comes across as very confident. Secondly, he comes across as he knows what he's talking about because he's done the research. As I mentioned, I will highlight that he's done the research. This indirectly lowers the guards of your prospect/client because you're talking about something that is already known to them, that affects them, and that's probably about the conversations that are already happening in their minds. That's how you get their attention. Guys, thirdly, have you ever heard this BDR who took the courage to make that phone call mention products or features? If you look at the video on YouTube, on the channel called Actual Live Sales Calls, you see a BDR that's brave also, that starts his pitch with features. He's telling every detail about what his platform sells. Then he gets torn. Now, the person that we've got in front of us is not talking about products, not features. He's talking about research. Got the attention, okay? And fourthly, I think the way of proceeding, as some of you may already know, prevents a lot of objections. I mean, let's think about it, right? Could the customer could have said, like, hey, I'm not interested? Definitely. But interested in what? We're talking about research. Why wouldn't you not be interested in in information that regards you? That's all about you. Like how? You tell me. The objection, for instance, such as, hey, please send me some documentation. About what? Again, I'm talking about research. What documentation do you need? If you need documentation, tell me about it. Okay, well, tell me about your what's going on in your world so that I can send you the right documentation. And if that's the case, and if that's how you handle the objection, then you want to understand what exactly fits your prospect. And then you get into a conversation. And then you want to ask for the meeting. Okay. Could the objection such as I never make my mind up on the first call or I can't afford it? Well, we don't even talk about price and product. Like, why? Right? This is not the right time. Okay, but then, when is best to call you back? All the smokescreen objections, they are prevented they because of the opening, because of the way the PGR confidently opened the call, to prevent all those objections. Okay, hope that helps. So in my eyes, a good call should be starting with the creating the reason for the call, the explanation of the value that's well articulated, guys. Draft it as many times as possible, make it sound nice, explain to people as if they were children, but make it sound, I don't want to say sexy, but say it sexy. That's it. And in terms of dealing with the objections, yes, the prospect didn't have objection, and it will happen. People will come up with stuff. Okay, but that's when, for instance, reverse psychology is very important, right? Building urgency. When is it that you feel you should, like, maybe be respectfully pushy just because it makes sense for your customer to book you, because again, they know that you've got something that they deserve. Okay, how do you show empathy in order to pivot any objection? Right, this takes a bit of practice, and again, I've got like several videos that show that. And if you were to be interested, again, you can ping me. How do you convey certainty? Because people don't want to waste their time. Okay, so even though some of the things that you say sound nice, people don't want to waste their time. So how can you show little skepticism but also make sure that you're convinced about your product, believe in your product respectfully, without being aggressive, without feeling like you're stepping on someone's toes, right? When do you need to be an active listener? So, these are the types of content that are really important when it comes to objection handling. And there's a lot of content on YouTube that's available. There's a lot of content on LinkedIn. The likes of George Brown, for instance, do a brilliant job at that. So, hey, there's definitely opportunities for you to do a lot of self education, but also I can help myself should you feel that I'll be the right person. But at the end, what's fantastic is that all this work, right, can get you to be a top performer. And I believe, well, that's not what I believe, actually, that's what happened to me, right? I was booking a meeting for every 11 dials. I'm not even talking about connects, every 11 dials, meaning that when you sharpen the saw and you're using the methodology that works, then guys, trust me, you think that things will happen miraculously to you. And to some extent,